Now, a member of staff at a Birmingham school, which is expected to close, says a consultation on whether it was going to remain open was a sham and that the decision to shut it has already been made. The woman, who has been working at Baverstock Academy in Druids Heath for a number of years, has broken her silence to speak exclusively to BBC WM, even though she acknowledges it could cost her her job. We told you yesterday about a leaked letter from the interim head teacher at Baverstock, Peter Cox, who wrote to the government in November recommending the school be closed. He described it as a broken school and said staff were jaundiced and fatigued. Steve McCabe, Labour MP, is the local MP, campaigning to save the school. This was his reaction to that letter.
All I can say is it's not consistent with anything he has said to me. In fact, he told me quite clearly that he believed the school could be rescued and that he wanted to work with me to achieve that. So I'm quite astonished to see the comments. Although I do note that one of the things he says is that there is a need for places. One of the arguments we've been making is that he argues for a free school, which is obviously an attempt to curry favour with the government.
So Steve McCabe there, local MP to the school at Baverstock, saying that he's astonished that this letter was being written at the time by the head teacher, when the head teacher was telling him he was attempting to save the school. Now, a staff member at Baverstock has got in touch with us. She doesn't want to be named, but says closing the school is, in her view, a done deal, and that Peter Cox, who was the interim head and who is now chair of the trust that runs the school, his job was to make sure that it shuts. I asked her why she's decided to speak out.
Because I believe in the children, the staff and the school. Many children there absolutely love the school. Many children have gone on to do wonderful things, achieve so high. And there are also a lot of children that are fighting to stay at the school. And where are they going to go? There are no schools.
Why do you think the head teacher has not supported the continued existence of the school?
I don't think it just stops with the head teacher. I think it goes above, but that is opinions that I've been given. I'm listening to feedback from all staff members. I am not fully aware of how everything works, but in my opinion, it goes further. But Peter Cox has made it very clear from the day he stepped into the school, he was there to close it.
In the school, in the community, wasn't there a belief, an understanding that Mr. Cox was trying to keep the school open?
He made everybody believe that that's what he was doing. He would speak to different people and tell them different things depending on what he thought they wanted to hear. And that is the way that he's managed to keep this under wraps for so long.
We're going to hear more of that interview after 8 o'clock. I should say that Peter Cox, who now is the chair of the trust that runs the school, but in November was the interim principal, we've made strenuous efforts to speak to him. I've personally texted him, called his number, so have other members of our team, but we've heard nothing back. Mr. Cox, if you're listening, please give us a call. We'd be delighted to hear from you on BBC WM this morning. We've also been in touch with the trust running Baverstock, but again, we have had no response from them. We contacted the Education Secretary, Justine Greening, invited her to come on and clarify matters. Instead, we got a statement saying a final decision will be made in due course. It goes on to say that their priority is ensuring that pupils receive high-quality education, and they will be working with the trust that runs the school and the local authority to ensure minimum disruption. Let's speak to local councillor Eva Phillips, a Labour councillor who represents the Brandwood ward. Morning, Eva.
Morning, Adrian.
Firstly, what's your reaction to what we've heard this morning?
Well, I think it's a huge kick in the teeth that the head sent in to help the school raise standards and who said he would try to save it has gone behind his staff and students' backs to recommend closure. It's another person who doesn't live here and has no stake here betraying our community. And as you found yourself, it has been practically impossible to get hold of anybody to talk about what is happening with our school.
In terms of your understanding of what was going on in the school in November, Did you believe that efforts at that time, when this letter was sent recommending closure by the interim principal, did you believe that efforts were being made to keep the school open?
Absolutely. We'd been told by the Regional Commissioner's Office, and Steve McCabe MP had been told by the Schools Minister that every effort was being made to find a new sponsor for the school and to keep it open. However, I think there has got to be, this just shows how bad the Tory education policy on academies is. Why does an unelected regional commissioner get to override the opinions of the elected councillors, the members of parliament and the community? The council is saying very clearly it can sustain a full form entry school here, but instead of being allowed to take it back, it's being forced to find places for the students elsewhere if it closes.
Do you feel deceived by Peter Cox?
Absolutely. This is somebody who was brought into the school to raise standards, who told us that he was going to do his best to save the school and look after the students there. And instead, he's gone behind everyone's backs and recommended closure. And not only that, but kept it quiet for so long as well.
There's been a consultation which closed this week. And according to that staff member, her belief is that this is just a sham, that the recommendation will come for closure from the government. Do you think she's right?
Well, those are very strong words. I would love to believe that this consultation was open and honest. However, we can't get anybody to answer any questions about how much work has gone into finding a sponsor, because apparently all that information is market sensitive. So we're being asked to trust when the education department tell us that they're doing their best to find a sponsor. However, that is incredibly hard to do when you come across letters like this, which again was not given to us, it was leaked to us. They've spent 6 months misleading and betraying us. There are no clear lines of accountability.
Where do you go next with this battle? Because I know Druids Heath very well. I've heard the parents over many months campaigning for the school to be kept open. If there is a recommendation for closure, where else can you go?
If there is a recommendation for closure, then our absolute priority is the education of the young people affected, particularly those in year 10 who've spent the whole of the start of their GCSE year under the threat of closure, with lots of staff coming and going, which of course, you know, that is not the staff's fault. They have families and they have to think about themselves too. And to make absolutely sure that the local families are not penalised for government mistakes by having to fork out for new uniforms and travel expenses. But we will continue to fight for the school as long as it is open.
Eva, thanks very much indeed for your time this morning. Labour Councillor Eva Phillips at the Brandwood Ward. Some very strong words, though. Words like betrayal, feeling deceived from Eva this morning. As I say, Peter Cox, if you're listening from the Leap Academy Trust that runs Baverstock, please get in touch with us. We would dearly love 12 minutes to 8. Coming up, we're going to hear the full interview with a member of staff at Baverstock School. And even if you don't live anywhere near Baverstock, which is in Druids Heath, you will want to hear this interview at 8 o'clock. This is somebody putting their job on the line, speaking out, they say, because they care passionately for the children. We've covered Baverstock a fair few times on this programme. It's a school that is threatened with closure. It's got financial problems. It's an academy that is in special measures. But there's a real sense amongst the community of Druids Heath that something is not quite right about this. And it's emerged that the head teacher in November wrote to the Education Minister, Lord Nash, saying he recommended the school for closure. At the same time, MPs and local councillors say they were led to believe that efforts were being made to keep the school open. So something not quite adding up there. And the staff member who we're going to hear from after 8 o'clock saying that she believes that there was a decision effectively already taken to close the school. So what exactly is going on with Baverstock? It's one thing to say that a school's got to be able to run itself on a sound financial basis. That's fair enough, and that it should be doing a good job for the pupils. But is it right that a school can have an interim head teacher saying one thing to councillors and MPs, apparently, and then saying a different thing in letters to the government. We have invited the school to speak, by the way. We haven't heard from them yet, but if anybody from Baverstock or from the trust that runs it wants to talk to us, we would dearly love to hear from you. We want your side of the story. You can hear one staff member's heartfelt plea just after 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock, it's Adrian Goldberg with your breakfast show here on BBC WM.
In the news, member of staff at troubled Birmingham school speaks out.
Excuse me. Now, a member of staff at the Baverstock Academy in Druids Heath has come forward to BBC WM to claim that a consultation on whether it should stay open or close was a sham and that the plan has always been to close it. She spoke to us after yesterday's programme when we reported a leaked letter from the former interim head teacher, Peter Cox. He wrote to the government in November, describing the school as broken and saying it should be closed. He also called staff jaundiced and fatigued. Mr Cox is now chair of the trust that runs the school. Local MP Steve McCabe says that at the same time Mr Cox was telling him he was fighting to keep the school open. Now, Baverstock is in debt and it is also in special measures, but nearby residents have told us they want it saved and improved. This staff member has come forward to speak exclusively to BBC WM because she says the children of Druids Heath deserve better than the closure of their local school.
It's been absolutely devastating for everybody. Everybody has tried very hard to keep morale up. But when you're constantly being told the school will close, you're attempting to make progress to do things that will save the school and it is being blocked. It becomes so disheartening, and it became very apparent several months ago that there was only one agenda, and that was to close the school.
Where is the blockage coming from then, stopping the attempts to keep the school open?
We are definitely sure that most of the blockage is coming from Peter Cox himself. When we have gone to him with proposals, or senior members have gone to him with proposals, they've been turned down and been told that he will get back to them with other improvements, which have never materialised. He was supposed to write a report of how the school could move forward, how it could improve. He was supposed to have done this months ago. And as I say, in a meeting with Chris Quinn, he was asked about this and he said he was just starting it.
Chris Quinn is the Regional Schools Commissioner. So on that evidence, you believe that Peter Cox hasn't tried hard enough anyway to keep the school open, to do all that he might have done?
He hasn't tried at all.
We've seen the letter that Peter Cox wrote to the Schools Minister, Lord Nash, and it is quite negative about the school and its staff. He says, by closing Baverstock, we can remove the many jaundiced, fatigued and inadequate staff and start again.
Yeah.
What do you make of that letter?
He just undermines everything. From what I've been informed by leadership, he's given negative opinions and constantly said negative things about the school to Ofsted and also to sponsors. Consequently, they've obviously walked away.
And he says in this letter, it is my opinion that Baverstock has no future in its current state and should close as quickly as possible, no later than August 2017. Now, the school is in special measures, isn't it? Is it a school that, in your view, could be saved?
It was proved it could be saved. When Sylvia Thomas was brought in the few months she was there, the school totally changed. The students, the school and the staff morale was up, and when Ofsted came in, their findings were the school was improving. She then informed staff that she would have to leave due to political reasons.
The school is in significant financial deficit, though, isn't it? So there is a question to be asked purely from a financial point of view about whether the school can survive.
There is definitely. We've been reliably informed that there are sponsors that are still interested and have been interested in the past until Peter Cox spoke to them.
You're speaking out this morning on BBC WM, knowing that by doing so, you could be putting your job at risk. Why are you doing that?
Because I believe in the children, the staff, and the school. Many children there absolutely love the school. Many children have gone on to do wonderful things, achieve so high. And there are also a lot of children that are fighting to stay at the school. And where are they going to go? There are no schools.
Why do you think the head teacher has not supported the continued existence of the school?
I don't think it just stops with the head teacher. I think it goes above, but that is opinions that I've been given. I'm listening to feedback from all staff members. I am not fully aware of how everything works, but in my opinion, it goes further. But Peter Cox has made it very clear from the day he stepped into the school, he was there to close it.
In the school, in the community, wasn't there a belief, an understanding that Mr. Cox was trying to keep the school open?
He made everybody believe that that's what he was doing. He would speak to different people and tell them different things depending on what he thought they wanted to hear. And that is the way that he's managed to keep this under wraps for so long.
There you go. That's one member of staff at Baverstock School feeling that the writing was on the wall from the minute Peter Cox went into the school. Mr. Cox is now chair of the trust that runs the school. He was previously an interim head teacher. She feels that really there was never any intention to try and keep the school open, even though local MP and councillors were being told the opposite. Pretty serious claims. Now, we have tried to speak to Peter Cox. I've personally texted him. I've called him. We've also been in touch with the trust running the school, but we have heard nothing back from them. Mr. Cox, Leap Academy Trust, who run Baverstock, we would love to hear your side of the story. We've been trying for several weeks now, but we would love to hear from you. Give us a call right now. We'll put you straight through on air this minute. 03453 00 9956. We also invited the Education Secretary, Justine Greening, on. She said she couldn't come on, but she said a final decision will be made in due course. Our priority is ensuring that pupils receive high-quality education, and we will be working to ensure minimum disruption. Eras, a school which was once regarded as a bit of a basket case, was dramatically turned round and became one of the most successful schools in Birmingham under the leadership of a legendary head teacher called Mr. Perks. So residents are saying, look, don't close the school down. If we can get a good head teacher in, like Mr. Perks, then we can turn this thing around again and give the kids the education that they need and they deserve. That's just a point of view, Patrick.